Hi folks, welcome to another edition of Beck Talks. My name is Brian Stittle, and joining me today is Daniel Francavella, Creative Director and Founder of the Now Creative Group. Welcome, Daniel. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so as you said, I'm the founder of Now Creative Group. It's a creative agency that I started 4 years ago. We just had our 4th anniversary this spring, and I started that after freelancing as a graphic designer in Brampton. And I guess I kind of built a team around me to offer different services that complement design, such as web developers, social media managers. I myself also went to school to study social media after graphic design. I went to OCAD University and UFT, and now I'm here.
That's great. Well, we're talking today about social media, so your experience in that and things like that. So let me know a little bit about what platforms you'd recommend for people who are getting into social media from a business-to-business perspective or business-to-consumer's perspective. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it definitely varies, so I'm glad you kind of separated those two. Number one thing for social media is to be where your audience actually is, as opposed to just wanting to have an account on all the different profiles. So it definitely helps to reserve your username, on all the different networks, but to only really invest in the ones that your customers are on or your potential audiences. So Instagram is exploding in terms of popularity and engagement. So Twitter has always been active, it's great, but people pay attention to Instagram, and particularly Instagram stories. That's where you post a static image, but on Instagram stories, you can browse through and see people's kind of live updates, which is the competitor of Snapchat. So Instagram stories is great if you have a visual business where you're selling physical products, or if you're doing a lot of live events, or if you want to share the behind the scenes. And I would still recommend Facebook, especially because you can do a lot of promoted posts and ads. Facebook is really good at targeting people. So those would kind of be the two main things. And coincidentally, they're both owned by the same company, which is Facebook.
There you go. So what are some of the ways that a small business, especially in the really, I won't call it competitive, but really busy social media market, what are some of the ways a small business can get noticed?
So one of the biggest ways to get noticed is by creating content that's not directly related to your product. It's not directly promotional. So it might seem counterproductive as a small business owner to not talk so much about your products and services, but to provide some value and something that they're interested in, right? So if I'm a small business owner and you might sell a financial product, I know that you can also help me in other ways about information about starting a business, right? Registration things, legal things, kind of the complementary suite about that. Because ultimately, if that information is coming from you, I'm going to see you as a helpful person, a helpful resource, and I might want to do business with you. So format-wise, videos are great for that, just because they're very shareable. People like to quickly catch things on their phone. And people are a lot more likely to watch a video that's auto-playing than to click on a blog post and read that whole thing.
Sure. And one of the important things for a lot of businesses that I think sometimes get forgotten about are the analytics. So how are your posts doing? What are some of the tips and tricks and things like that you have when we're talking to people about analytics?
Right. So the first thing is to actually look at the analytics regularly. A lot of times people wait till the end of the month or even more than that to check. The reason being is that you can adjust your content based on how it's performing. So sometimes you might have a really great post, but it was posted, let's say, at the wrong time of day, right? And it didn't get any engagement. So you can try that same post again based on your analytics to see when another post performed really well, it was posted on another time. I think if you pay attention to those analytics, it'll also tell you what type of content. So whether that's videos, photos, links, and just plain text, depending on your platform, you can tell kind of which content performs better. So obviously video does get a lot more engagement, but there's certain posts that are just quick updates that are plain text, and that will actually do really well as well, depending on who your audience is and what time you're posting it.
That's great. I know one of the key outcomes that a lot of small businesses look for is driving traffic to their website.
Right.
So how does a small business drive traffic through social media to their website?
Yeah, and I actually kind of wanted to comment on that because it's not just about driving traffic as a goal. Of course, if you're an e-commerce product, people have to get to your website to buy it. But it's actually okay if they're reading your content directly on that platform. People don't always want to kind of leave what they're doing, leave that platform to read the content. So if your video is, instead of uploaded elsewhere, it's uploaded into Facebook directly or into Instagram, people love consuming it there. You're more likely for them to actually finish that content and get value from it. But of course, if they do have to get to your website, you want to create a very clear call to action as to what's on that website, right? So instead of just posting the link to your homepage all the time, here's our website, contact us here. You want to give them some value. For example, sign up for something free on our website, or if you go to our website, you can subscribe to our blog for free updates or for free giveaways, right? So give people an incentive to actually visit that website. A few years ago, everyone was focused on, for example, search engine marketing, which is still big, but it was exclusively just to get to the site. And once people are on that site, there's not as much content that's engaging on there. So you want to slowly show them reasons to go to your site, give them value.
And a lot of people are somewhat worried about social media. Like get on there, something bad's going to happen. There's negative stuff that goes along with it. Going viral is sometimes a good thing, sometimes not a good thing. So, what kind of impact can that negative stuff potentially have on your business? And you got any tips or tricks to avoid that kind of thing?
Yeah, so number one thing is to actually be accessible to your clients. So if people see that a negative comment was posted and it wasn't addressed, it actually creates a spiral effect where other people will comment on that and kind of feed off of it. So if you're paying attention and you're able to monitor that immediately, you can kind of take that conversation offline and show that it was addressed and use it for a positive outcome. You can even get creative depending on that scenario. If it's a common concern people are having, make a video about it, write a blog post about it, so that other people don't complain with the same issue. And of course, there's always going to be some negative people out there, but the point is to just drown that out with positive content, post a lot more great things, share great testimonials, so that the negative comments are not the majority.
Sure. And that's some great advice there. I mean, you talked about being on top of the social media and being responsive to it. So social media can take up a lot of your time. What are some of the platforms that you recommend to kind of help manage your time and things like that goes along with it?
Sure, yeah. So there's two different ones that I'd recommend. The first one, very common now, is called Buffer. A lot of people have heard of Hootsuite. Buffer is kind of an alternative to that, very similar. Buffer lets you add things to your queue in a variety of different social networks and customize what those posts will look like. So I can take the post of, let's say, this interview, this video, right? And I'm going to caption it, and I'm going to tell it to post on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then I'm going to customize what the caption says for each platform because, of course, there's different audiences, and I can schedule that. Now, it won't post at the same time because you don't want to kind of hit people, 3 different networks, 3 posts at the same time. They'll just think that it's a little bit spammy, right? So you can hit shuffle on Buffer, and it will actually disperse those updates at different times, mix them up so that different things are showing up at different times.
That's great. Now, again, because it can take up a lot of time, small businesses don't always have the human resources. They might have the technical resources. When do you recommend hiring a social media manager? So personally, I think that you need to start strong with social media. Obviously, small business has a lot of different costs up front. Now, if your business is not in marketing, or if you don't have a background in marketing, I would definitely recommend starting with hiring a social media strategist at the very least at the beginning. A strategist can put together a plan for you, give you some customized content that you should use and shouldn't use, and when you should post. And then you can use that advice on your own later. You can also have one of your other team members kind of take that on. However, because it is make or break, there are a lot of social media mishaps and mistakes that happen that actually can very negatively affect your brand. I would recommend getting a social media manager as early as possible. If you're looking at it from a launch date perspective, about a month before, so that you can actually curate some reasonable content, building some hype, right? You don't want to, open your store, the store is empty, and then you start tweeting about it and telling people to come, right? You want to build up that presence before. That's great. Well, Daniel, thanks for joining us today. It's been an informative podcast for sure, and we look forward to seeing some of the work that you're doing with your clients as it gets out there, and hopefully people will take this advice and be able to expand on their own social media needs throughout their organizations. Thanks very much for joining us, everyone.